Hey, Alfredo. Ernest Lopez here, responding to Reflection 2 for this week's module, Origin of Ethnic Studies, for our Ethnic Studies 3 class. Just jumping right into some of the things that you had mentioned in your post. The United Farm Workers logo, the iconic eagle logo image, I thought that was a pretty interesting area that was definitely going to be touched on when talking about the UFW. But some of the back end things I also didn't know, and I thought that it was great that you mentioned them. Some of the um, research that was gone into it, and not just any types of research, but like the Egyptian hieroglyphics. That was an interesting spin that was put on the logo and the thought behind it, and the fact that it was drawn out and then it was completely scrapped and redone, and not completely scrapped in the sense that they clearly took the image of the eagle that has a lot of um, ties to the Chicano and Latin culture when it comes to the past and the culture that is surrounding Mexican Americans and most of the people in Central America that affiliate with any types of Mexican or Chicano cultures. But it was a really good idea. It was very strategic and it was very well thought out and planned to have something that was easily recognizable but also easy to draw. And I say that because Cesar Chavez made it a point to not just recruit people into the collective, but to use them as resources themselves to draw out what they're able to use in terms of the items that they had, whether it was paper, posters, pens, markers, but something simple but powerful enough to have an iconic image that anyone, even you or I, could probably draw as we go out there and promote our cause and to try to get the word out there to other people in terms of recruitment when we're out there, whether it was through boycotting or if people were just trying to bring attention to the cause. It was something that they could simply do themselves or have someone else do for them so that they could move forward with supporting the cause. And I thought that was an interesting way to start off what you thought was interesting. I also like that you touched on the UFW leadership. So Dolores Huerta, um, Cesar Chavez, they were turning down these outside funding sources in order to be in order to avoid being swayed and controlled by their donors. And that's very smart and also, again, very strategic because when you look at any corporation that has stocks and bonds and major stakeholders, anytime that there's a majority stakeholder, there's usually things like board of directors that come along and have these policies and processes that you have to follow. You can't just go out and do what you want. You have to make sure that the majority is involved and their decisions are approved by these key stakeholders. And so that was pretty smart. It also demonstrated their ability to understand the systems they were a part of that were both against them and that they lived within. And they used the very little resources that they had, and again relied on the collective rather than the people or companies that did have the means to get them what they needed much faster. But the point wasn't to go fast. It showed their grit and desire to persevere and the ability to critically think, and then also use their life experiences to help them make a lasting imprint in history and a difference within their culture to show them grassroots and what that really and truly does mean. Also, looking at the Great Boycott, how companies were relabeling products in grocery stores in order to make their sales, it showed that corporations were stooping to unethical tactics to sell their products. And why? Because they didn't want to admit that the movement was hindering their sales, since profit capitalism and the almighty dollar truly do shape institutional behaviors. And so that was a really good point that you made. And then it also demonstrated that the pride these company executives exhibited to deceive the public rather than to admit that farm labor was in fact valuable, and it did align with the demands of the people in the farm labor movement. So you touched on quite a few different points, but I thought those are the ones that stood out to me the most, and I thought you did a really great job. I appreciate that you were able to go through the material like the rest of us and kind of put your input. And I look forward also, like you mentioned, to what's to come. Thanks.